the first thing that Notre Dame does is it inspires your passion. And I found that instantly here, that I fell in love with building cities, building buildings, and how those could, contribute to a better life for not just me and my family, but for Notre Dame and for everyone. So I'd say that the foremost thing Notre Dame did was really pull out that passion and give you an environment where you can embrace that, educate yourself with that, with your colleagues and friends, and then go out and try to change the world, make it into a better place.
It really prepares students in multiple ways. I mean, Notre Dame is a very special place, and I think most students, the friendships and the connections that they make there tend to last a lifetime. So, I mean, certainly that helps in a professional sense, but, just the program is unique in that it just really teaches you to think critically, and I think prepares you well for some of the challenges that you face in professional life. At Notre Dame, again, we have a unique focus on urbanism and on context, and designing buildings and places that are sustainable, that are conducive to living well, and I think the way that Notre Dame prepares students to go out into the world and then practice and apply those things, I think Notre Dame architecture graduates really are making a difference.
There's a lot of learning that goes on, from age 18 to 22. I think that having a 5-year program is incredibly beneficial. Being able to condense the amount of information into 5 years, I think, is a challenge. Most schools do 4 years and 2 after that. So having the opportunity to do 5 years is a way for me and for other students to get that information in an expeditious manner, but also in an efficient manner as well.
Well, for an architecture degree, a 5-year degree is unique in the sense that I can practice as an architect right out of school. A graduate program is not required, so I could sit for the licensing exam with this degree. So that's really important in terms of being able to utilize my education as soon as possible. But what's also nice about it is that Notre Dame in particular, our 3rd year is our Rome Studies program, and it gives us an opportunity to have our 4 years on campus, which is super important at Notre Dame, but also have this year of exploration and really see how our field is practiced around the world. But I think we've been very well trained to anticipate what a real building, how it goes together, and how to properly anticipate how it could work in a society. So I'm incredibly excited to show my stuff.
I think the importance of the 5-year degree here at Notre Dame is that as soon as you graduate, you can go ahead and begin pursuing licensure. And a lot of our students are very committed to getting licensed, and many go on to open their own firms and to do their own work.
Right, well, being a 5-year program, I had 5 years of intensive architectural study, whereas most people who go to a 4+2, they might have only had 2 years of intense architectural study, or maybe 3. So I feel like I've been doing this a little bit longer than most of my competitors who are coming out of grad school, say. And it's great to say that I come from an accredited university that has this architecture program.
Architecture has a surprisingly giant impact on the world in the sense that you're really shaping the environment that people are living their lives in.
I think architects today are really some of the last great generalists. You do need to know at least a little bit about a lot of different things, and that really matches up with my sort of lifelong curiosity. I've always been very interested in a variety of things, and so it's great to come to school every day and be able to learn a lot about a lot. I think architecture is really something that's taken for granted by most people. If you think about life as a play and we're the actors, architecture is the set. And it sort of blends into the background and we forget about it, but it affects the way we think, it affects our moods, it affects how we interact. And maybe most importantly, it affects how we transmit culture and heritage. And that's something I'm particularly interested in, and I think something that Notre Dame's program very uniquely identifies and sends students out into the world to be a part of. Our program prepares us extremely well to go out and identify culture and tradition around the world and make sure it's maintained.
Architecture and urban design and the cities that we build really shape our lives and shape what we do, how we interact with each other in really meaningful ways that lots of people don't necessarily pay attention to. And that's, so now that's sort of what I'm most interested in terms of architecture and urban design is shaping environments where people can thrive and interact, and all their needs can be met within a reasonable amount of space, and make the best of the resources that we have available to us.
I think pre-1920s, the sort of view of architecture was just creating, pretty buildings and standalone buildings. And I think after that, architects became more of, the designers of society and how people interact daily. And that's the aspect of architecture that I'm most drawn to, and how we can, sort of form these communities and such.
I was very well prepared for the professional world. I had a very unique skill set that set me apart from the rest of the architecture field. And there's a handful of firms that were very interested in me, and I was very interested in them just because of the background that I achieved here.
The design skills we learned can certainly help shape the field of architecture today, shape it for the better. And all of the hand drawing and all the watercoloring, that certainly has helped shape us as good designers and good architects one day.
I mean, I would say studying at Notre Dame was such a great place to learn not only about how buildings go together and understanding about making beautiful buildings aesthetically, but also looking at sort of the social impact of those buildings and thinking really holistically about the design and what it is that we're doing when you're actually creating a new place.
For me, I'd say it has to do with the way that the school structures the curriculum. You work in studios, and that studio environment really leads you to learn to become a collaborative designer, which I think in the professional world is key to your success. You have to be able to work with your other colleagues, you have to be able to work with clients, and I think Notre Dame did a really good job of preparing you to be able to have that collaboration.
I chose architecture because I loved the thought of designing spaces, and it was almost like a puzzle of putting together all the spaces that you might use, like in your home, in your daily life, the spaces where you live, and how to create those experiences as you move in between spaces, and just creating that whole of where you live. Over the years, as I have worked specifically in residential and designed spaces for clients, it's really hearing the clients once it is complete, and they could express to you in some words what they're looking for, but you're able to take that and design and put it on paper, and then eventually it comes to life, and just the satisfaction of them hearing you captured my ideas so perfectly, and it's even more than we could have imagined, and you're able to say, I was able to have a hand in that, so that really was magical.
It's the built environment. It's what shapes societies. It's what shapes people's life. It can certainly help improve or make worse people's quality of life. The built environment is very much intertwined to how we live and how we move.
Well, I mean, you're creating spaces that everyone gets to use for the most part. You're leaving an imprint on the world, not just as an architect, but for an environment, a community, a town and you're creating a space that really can bring these places into the next century, and hopefully even longer than that.
I echo what Kevin said, sort of about looking at major town planning or urban design, and I've worked on those projects. I've also done a lot of work on residential projects where you really get to know a particular family, and when you know that you can kind of have made a place where they feel so comfortable and can really sort of grow their family and their dreams together, I think that it really sort of impacts you knowing that, and going back and seeing them use those spaces is really rewarding.
I'd like to think that it has a profound effect. I hope it has a profound effect, otherwise I'm wasting my time here. But I think it has a great, it has the capability to make great changes socially, how people live their lives. I've been working on a series of projects that have to do with community development and school development, and it's nice to see that those projects have an impact on students, which is a position that I was in just a few years ago. So it's nice to see that change being made.
My proudest moment as an architect was working on a building here at Notre Dame.
My proudest moment as an architect, I think there's daily victories that happen as an architect, because you're actually, again, sort of the reality of what it is that you're working on. I was fortunate, I did actually go into some further education and moved to London and worked with Prince Charles there. And because he sort of fits right in with the ethos of what we do here at Notre Dame, and he was very excited to know about what I had learned here at Notre Dame as an undergrad, and so some of the projects and really understanding the social aspects of what he's working on there, and to be able to be part of that was a really proud moment.
I don't know, I would say that proudest moment that I have is the next moment that I'm about to experience, because it's a collaboration of what I've learned in the past years of my life.
You know, we sculpt buildings, and then they turn around and sculpt us, and they change the way societies think, feel, operate, etc. And they come about and change people that aren't the ones that created them. So it's a tremendous responsibility to try to build a better world for all of us. That's an environmental perspective, from a sort of cultural perspective, and sort of city building, community building perspective. Done well, architecture can have a profound influence on that. Done poorly, it can also have a profound influence on it. So that's the challenge and the blessing of having that as a job.